All right, everyone's here, so call to order at 7:01.
Susie's not here.
Who's not here?
Susie.
She's on,
Oh,
but
she's on.
not.
She's on.
Sorry, Susie. Okay.
Eating my dinner, you guys. So I'm keeping the video off, but I swear I'm here and I am listening.
Understood.
I will be doing the same shortly, but I was gonna just talk and.
All right. Public participation. Let's see. I see three on. Anybody want to say anything? Carol?
Is anybody addressing the extra geese that are around? And their
Carol, can you just say your name and your address? Sorry.
I'm Carol Zubek, and I'm at 294 Main Street, near where all the geese hang out. So I'm just curious if people are addressing the hearing that and seeing that the geese are around a lot and leaving presents.
I can mention one thing. I know the boat went past my house at 6 o'clock this morning, cleaning the geese out. So I know they're around, but I don't know if this is an official statement.
Okay.
We can try to find out what's
I
going
could
on.
probably make that, Rob, if you want.
Yeah, thanks, Joe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they've been visiting my the church property and hanging out too long, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, totally. So I do know that there's a couple of stubborn flocks, and they've been chasing them, doing some of the egg oiling and different things like that. I can't speak much for last week because Public Works was tied up a little bit with the weather event that rolled through, but I know it's something that's on our radar that we're trying to ratchet down as fast as we can. Unfortunately, right now it's kind of a work in progress. We seem to be chasing and chasing and chasing, and we have intermittent rounds of success with it so far. But it's not lost on us and something that we've committed to trying to shush them away.
I was gonna say, anything the public can do, just give us a heads up.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So we'll be on it. Rob, I hope the boat doesn't wake you up at 6 o'clock in the morning.
No,
Yeah, like,
no,
oops.
I'm already up. But yeah, it was good to see him out there this morning.
Yeah, they're on it. Dennis is all over it with them. So hopefully we turn the corner on it.
From my own understanding, what do you mean a boat? I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, so we actually have a boat that's moored at Vets Field. So,
I see that. I've never known whose boat it was.
Yeah, so that's the DPW's boat. We'll use it to combat the geese population, and then we contract with somebody that's helping us with that, and they'll also use that from time to time, so we can access the geese from the water and from the shore.
Any other public participation that anybody would like to say? No, I don't see anybody else. The others, okay. Item 3 on the agenda: approval of minutes. So we have the July 9th and August 13th, because I forgot to send the last ones out. So if we get a motion, if everybody's read them, to approve the minutes.
I motion that they be accepted.
Second,
Second, Scott.
Mary.
I had one comment on them. It's just that Robin, I think.
Julie, I can't hear you very well.
Oh, sorry. Is that better?
A little bit. I'll just turn up my speaker and see if that helps
Sorry,
me.
I won't talk much. It's over 40,000 square feet in the July minutes for the green communities. It's at the bottom of page 1. It's very minor.
Okay.
It's just
I'll
missing a 0.
I'll amend my motion that it's approved with amendments.
Thank you.
All in favour? I'll go by my screen. Julie?
Yes. Yes.
Me? Aye. Robin?
Aye.
Joe? Joe?
Aye.
Thank you. Mary?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Myra?
Yeah.
and Susie.
I'm actually going to abstain because I was not at the August meeting. And if I'm being completely honest, I did not read either of the minutes. Sorry.
Okay. No
Not
problem.
offended.
All right. Okay. This item 4 on the agenda: pending business and discussion. So, trash reduction. We haven't actually set up a true focus group yet. We did talk about it, but we haven't really formulated one. Joe, do you want to chime in on some of the trash opportunities? I know we did. Black Earth Compost just recently sent us a letter asking to work with the town, so we're going to look at that. And it was sent to me and to Joe, so we were thinking of setting up a small group to try and figure out if it's something that the town could do. Apart from that, I'm looking at Joe. Joe.
No, I guess to comment on that, we did get the proposal from Rob and I. It's an interesting opportunity to sit down and have a conversation. Unfortunately for me, I got that proposal in the middle of kind of last week's weather, so I quickly read it and haven't been able to follow back up with them. But I think this is a potential opportunity for something that might be advantageous to both sides. I'm not completely sure on the logistics of it or what that might look like, but I think it's a starting point for conversation, and we'll kind of see if that can grow into fruition to something that's beneficial.
Yeah, thanks.
Can I ask a question? And I missed part of the last meeting, so apologies if I missed it. But several months ago, there was real concern at the town of the cost of trash, and that you all were renegotiating your trash contracts and were concerned that that the cost was going to go up significantly. And so I think that's when we started to think about, is it worth a townwide initiative to think about reducing the amount of trash? Is that still true, that there is still concern about the cost increases?
Absolutely. So the cost increase that took place, we were at the expiration of our disposal contract. So there's 3 pieces to refuse and recycling. There's the contract price to collect it at the curb, and then regarding refuse, there's also the contract price to bring that to the incinerator or the waste for energy plant. We were up to renew our disposal cost, and the market had shifted. So we went from paying $69 and change to $90 a ton come July. So knowing that market looked like that was kind of some of the driver behind trying to figure out if there are any alternatives to get tonnage out of the waste stream. So that's still obviously huge today, right? So the market was what the market was. We entered into agreement because we need to bring our refuse somewhere. So it's kind of caused us to seek out any opportunity that we can. Think of like simple recycling with the textile program and things like that. That was a program that came into town that was a little to no cost to us. I mean, the only thing we had to do is sit down with them and have a couple of conversations with the goal of just creating another avenue to get some of the tonnage out. And I think, not to steal your thunder, Ann, but I think you have some of the data on that to kind of say exactly what that accomplished so far.
Yes, so May was a slow start, obviously, because of the corona. We didn't get all the routes were limited, started midweek, and we got 2,423 pounds. In June, it went up to 24,225 pounds. In July was 11,971 pounds. So I'd say it was working out very well.
So, and then with that, any opportunity that we have to create a situation where we can reduce the waste stream, obviously we're going to explore to the fullest extent, because it's going to save you in both your pocket and, outside, making the town cleaner and greener.
Joe and Rob, did Black Earth, and I know that, you know, they are privately collecting for those in town that are subscribing. Have they provided us, you know, based on those numbers, any, you know, projections of what a town-wide type program would remove from our waste stream based on what they're already kind of seeing from the limited number that already participate privately with them?
I know
And then,
in the proposal that they sent, I know there's some pricing advantage if something were, you know, some sort of agreement were to come into play. I don't remember if there's
Yeah.
sort of a market analysis to it or not. That would probably be one of the questions that would come up though when we do talk to them, is to say, you know, give me some peer communities that are similar size, kind of similar population. What are you seeing there? And then we try to figure out how we can equate that to our situation in Wakefield.
yeah, that's where I was driving for, you know, what is, you know, their cost offset what we're reducing from trash.
Right. No, so we don't have that yet, but it's certainly, as soon as the dialogue, you know, where to begin, that would be one of the top 2 or 3 questions I think would be interesting.
May I ask a question about the compost
Oh.
proposal?
Hang on, it's not a public right this minute.
Okay, sorry.
Hang on, sorry. What was I going to say? On the app, when you log in, it does tell you how many people are currently on subscribed and the potential tonnage that is being removed. If you look on that, Tom.
Yeah, no, I saw that. I was just wondering, you know, taking that metric and then extrapolating if, you know, a town-wide program was to be rolled out, you know, how much tonnage would be removed, and then what does that savings look like from a trash contract?
So I guess, yeah, sorry. So we're gonna look at it. I've barely looked at it as well, and I'll put it on the agenda for next meeting. There's a lot of questions. So if you have any questions and you want to send them to me, feel free to send them to me, and then we can add them to the questions we have when we get back to them. Reply to the letter. If that works? If you just send them to me, I'll compile them and I'll send them off to Joe. If that works.
And I have a question about the simple recycling. Is the pink bags available to people who don't have the town pick up the recycling? Or is it still the same people that do recycling can do the pink bags?
So anyone can do it. It just may be difficult for them to pick up because they don't normally stop there. But if they call, they can leave it at their address and they'll come get it.
Okay, so there's no limitations townwide.
Correct.
I can tell you my personal experience is they've been really good. They've picked up sort of every time, you know, we've put them out a couple of days, including today, and they picked up really early and they left us new bags tied to like our, you know, in between our weeds. And it's great.
I just had one other question to follow up on. When Claire was here, she was mentioning that she had a load of flyers that she was going to hang on doors to explain either the recycling or items that can go in or items that can't go in to try and. Oh, there we go.
So I have both of the flyers. One's a oops one. So if someone has put out something incorrectly, you check the box off and write a little note, and then it clips right on to whatever. And then this one is just sort of informational. It has about what you can and can't recycle.
How's the 7,000? The delivery of the 7,000 going?
So here's one.
Okay.
I would say so originally our intent pre-pandemic world was we hire interim college students to help us with a whole bunch of things. And the plan was to roll out with a few of them, and we were actually going to blanket the whole complete town. You know, nobody needs to know what the world turned into after that point in time.
Yeah.
So everything looked a little bit different, and our response from those college students actually dropped quite a bit. Went from having 13 or 14 to 4 or 5. So it's something still on our radar that we'd like to accomplish this fall. It probably works out a little bit better because it's going to be a lot nicer as far as temperature is concerned. But it's something that'll probably end up being a combined effort between our group and then, maybe some volunteers or something like that that might be interested in to go out and take a walk or something like that. We don't have the complete game plan yet completely figured out, but in the short term, probably by the next time we meet, we'll probably have that locked in and potentially asking for a little bit of help.
Yeah, sounds good. So I just have one question because it reminded me today. My neighbour put a pizza box in the recycling, and I wasn't sure if that was an oops on there or is it recyclable now?
So pizza boxes are recyclable, even if they have grease on them. You
Okay.
can't put them out if they have pizza, but they certainly will take them if they have grease.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
We had a big conversation about that in our house. It was like a big, aha moment.
Yeah. All right.
But you could always compost them too.
I know.
Black earth too.
I know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Rob,
Yes. Sorry,
Um,
Susie.
no, that I need to raise my hand. Sorry about that. We have a Facebook handle, or do we not, for this committee?
We do not.
Ah, okay. Because I was just going to say, those kind of facts of what can you recycle, what can't you recycle, the ability to kind of help with the plastic, the benches. I'm having a hard time finding words. That to be able to point people to where to drop those off and what's included in that. Have you guys ever talked about having a Facebook handle and what that would take?
We did, and it was voted down at the time.
Got it.
We can relook at it. So the ones we've done in the past, like the bags, which we're going to be on, that goes on the town page. When we did the pumpkin, that went on the town page as well, I think, and then we have it on our website.
Sense. Yeah, so maybe it's more of trying to get a regular cadence of communications going out on the town page, because then you don't have to worry about the collection of followers, they already exist.
Yeah,
right?
that's the idea, because you have more reach because you already have membership on those, rather than creating a smaller one and you get 200 people who know. Yeah.
Yeah. And do you guys go through Jen McDonald to get that posted then?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
She does. Yeah, because I think
I'd love to see us do a recycling tip of the week or something, because that pizza box thing, nobody knows that, and lots of people have hot debates at home about whether you can put them in or not.
Could we get that's a good point. Could we get could we get those materials in an electronic format that we could repurpose for more of a social media campaign? So it's a digital campaign in the time of COVID, as opposed to a doorknob campaign.
Absolutely.
Because I think that would be effective right now. I mean, sure, we should probably still distribute any of the paper materials we have, but the fact that we're making paper materials is probably a no too. Quite frankly, if we can avoid it, let's try to avoid it.
Sure. So the one thing I can add to that is the 2 pamphlets that Ann held up. We basically gave Jen the information, and then she actually put all that together, picked the color palette, designed it. All that work is her. The only thing we're really providing is the data. So she probably already has that digitally. That's a real easy, quick. The only thing she really have to do is set a time to get the posts up.
That's great. I mean, great work on that. I think let's try to get it out. I agree.
Yeah, Mary, from your point, if it gets pushed out through the town page, and then that post can then be pushed by either Sustainable Wakefield or a member of this committee to all of the town Facebook pages, which will really boost visibility. So it's a town post that's then pushed out to all of those groups that, you know, people may not subscribe to the town page, but would see it.
Yeah, much broader reach to use the
Yeah.
existing channels. We did debate though, should we
Oh,
have
right.
our own page?
Yeah.
I think it just came down to, would it just dilute our audience? I mean, one of the things, the merits of doing a town page, not to debate it now too much, would be if we wanted to expand and have larger work groups or you know, sort of more community support to help with initiatives. So that might be a way we could do that and find those people who have the interest. But I think from a communication standpoint, it's probably best to use the existing channels. I think there's actually a few Town of Wakefield community sites too, so that gets confusing as well.
Yeah, I think until we had enough content where the town Facebook page owners said, we can't post this because you've provided too much content, then I think it might be time to think about creating your own channel. But I think right. I mean, half the battle is coordinating that, having a calendar, someone who owns it, somebody who's thinking about it. And so I think I just heard, did I hear you just volunteer Anne to do that, or did I mishear that? It sounded like Anne put data together and kind of designed it in a really nice way, but are you also saying that she would be willing, and maybe Anne, I should ask you, but you know, because I think that is half the battle, is having a person who's on point to be communicating things on behalf, you know, and we could at every monthly meeting do a little bit of talking about let's put this in, let's put this in, and then Anne just make sure it happens. I don't know if that's even reasonable.
I don't think it's not reasonable. We were heading in that direction. Claire was kind of spearheading that for us. Things changed. She ended up moving back to California to go home to be with her family. So it's kind of been now handled, at least in the short term, sort of by platoon between Ann and I. But I know that's not something unreasonable, especially now like the pizza boxes, the way that what is recyclable and what isn't recyclable, that is lightning fast. So we could have new content every week easily, you know. So I don't think that's something that is probably a good goal to achieve. And it's not painstaking labor, it's not backbreaking. I don't want to speak for Jen McDonald. She basically beautifies the message, but I think on her end, I would imagine that that's probably something easily attainable.
Yeah, I would love to see if we could get enough content out there that then we get to a point maybe that we feel like we need our own channel. But I think there's great stuff going on that we aren't always kind of communicating kind of regularly. And yeah, so I think that would be awesome if that's a possibility.
I don't think anybody would disagree with that.
Awesome.
The state DEP has a Facebook group called Recycle MA or something like that. They have fantastic regular posts of these kind of tips. So I don't know if the town reposts or if they just would use that. We can use that as a resource to come up with content, but they do these similar pizza boxes, the problems with black plastic recycling and stuff like that. So others, you know, are coming up with content. So just spreading the news is our responsibility, I think.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. Thanks for that. So the styrofoam warrant is still moving forward. Melissa, would you like to speak? Is everybody okay? She's compiled a list of all the restaurants and dividing it up and really determining who already has switched over. And then there's a plan to talk to the chamber next week.
Can you hear me? I was
Oh.
just gonna, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
So I finally reached out to the chamber and they have some time to meet next week. So we'll be meeting with some of their leadership to really talk through kind of how they think we can work together on it. So Rob and Melissa, I'll text you and find a time that works for both of you guys too.
Oh, great, thanks. All right.
Yeah, the one thing I would add is that it does seem like there is a lot of businesses that use styrofoam in town, so it will be a big change for them.
And I should just also add that it looks like town meeting is going to be November 7th. I'm not sure that's official yet, but I think we'll be finalizing it on Monday night at town council. So we have a date we're working towards.
Oh, okay. Thanks. So next on the agenda is green communities. So, sorry, bear with me 1 sec. Sorry about it. Where is it? So the slides are done. Did I send you the slides? No. Hang on. Sorry.
Do you have them there? Can you share them on the screen?
I'll try to figure it out. I thought I had everything ready. I'm sorry. Oh, there they are. Got them. Does that work? Does everybody see that?
Yes, we can.
Oh, okay, great. Okay. So this is in the town format. So Jane Calais and Julie and input from some of us have put together these slides to present to the town council, right, Julie?
Yeah, so what I'm thinking is that we go through them today, and then as a committee, we can vote whether we want to pursue green communities, which doesn't mean anything other than, you know, we will kind of make our best efforts to become a green community. But yes, you'll see in the presentation, really in the end, it's a town meeting decision on many things.
So we would just approve it today.
Yep.
And then we would send it. We would present it to town council.
Right.
Ask to present it, and then I guess do some public outreach, and then it would go to town meeting.
Yeah, that's the thing. There'll be different components that can go to town meeting depending on the timing. You know, either in the fall or the spring. But so again, I mean, I think a vote by us and even a vote by town council doesn't mean that we're moving. You know, that we're moving forward. It means that we're going to try to make best efforts to get these things through.
So these
Let's
slides.
get through the presentation. Yeah.
Yeah. So these slides is a cut down and neater version of what the guy from Green Communities presented to us. So I'm just going to. What is a green community? And then
So was everybody here when
benefits.
Neil from the state presented? Can't remember.
So,
Okay.
The July meeting, and it was a very long presentation. I think you would remember it if you were there.
Yeah.
I say
It
that,
was long.
Very good minutes on it as well, so.
I say that in the nicest way possible.
I know,
Yeah.
I know. And so I'm not sure we need to go through every single thing here,
No.
except to say that, and maybe Robin, you know kind of better. Yeah, these are the 5 things. So basically to become a green community, and there's 351 towns and cities in Massachusetts, and most are already green communities. It's a state designation. You have to do these 5 things to become a green community, and then you basically have access to some pretty significant grant funding to support essentially moving forward from your baseline. So,
renewables.
so
And then-
2 things. So the number 1 and 2, go back, Rob. Number 1
Yep.
and 2 really have to do with renewable energy, and these will have to go. These are zoning changes, so they would have to go to town meeting. And so 1 would be
No,
to-
Julie, one clarification. Only criteria 1 is zoning. Criteria 2,
True.
permitting policy is not town meeting purview.
Right. Okay. So criteria 1, we would have to have a zoning that essentially identifies zones where renewable, either research and development, generation, or manufacturing could happen in town. I think from some preliminary discussions, we're leaning towards proposing research and development because we have some big office parks where things like that can go on. But that's just some of the initial thinking. We want to get some feedback. Robin, on number 2 there on the permitting policy, so that's not a town meeting, right?
Right.
Is my understanding, no, it's a policy, not a, a regulation.
So we'll have to clarify that. And we still need to sit through and, sit down with the town council, lawyers and everything, and figure out what the steps are. So the next was, and then we have to have this is actually a fair amount of work. We have to have an energy reduction plan for municipal. This is not energy reduction for private citizens or businesses. This is really just municipal facilities and vehicles. We'd have to set up a baseline and then reduce energy. And with a lot of new buildings coming online, and the DPW has done an excellent job of kind of understanding our fleet of vehicles and energy usage there, we think that this is achievable. So this is not a town meeting. This is just setting a baseline from municipal data.
I think I raised some concern. I definitely have concern now about asking the schools to be involved with that creation of a baseline, which I know they would have to be, just with everything that's going on. But I also realize that this isn't an immediate thing, right? So eventually we would need the schools to get in on this. And I think the feeling was that, assuming that the high school gets built as part of this, like that's going to carry a lot of the requirements for the school. But there were some details in there about vehicles owned by municipalities. Maybe that's coming up, but I feel like there was some stuff that would require investment in order to comply. That certainly right now the schools couldn't be thinking about that at all. But I also know that this isn't a short-term thing to get this thing going.
Right.
I just want to raise the concern that we can't ask the schools to do anything right now.
I completely understand, and we'll have a time frame at the bottom of this. I mean, this would not even start until probably next fall, so 2020, end of 2021.
Okay, cool.
And Susie, some of the baseline would actually come from the utility, since the schools use natural gas and electricity that are metered. Some of that is just simply looking at what the 12-month utility bill is. And that's the baseline from there. So
the measurement wouldn't be difficult. It's how do we get the 20% savings in 5 years?
Correct. Yeah, and quite frankly, a new high school would probably get us there as well, because and then we also, as part of this, there is a look back period. I forget if it's 1 or 2 years. So when this gets put in place, we get to look back 1 to 2 years of usage. So if say for instance the high school got built while you were doing this, you wouldn't be penalized for that. You get to look back to the previous building.
Okay.
I'll move on. So energy efficient vehicles.
Yeah, this is what you're still talking about, Susie, with the vehicles. It's not heavy duty vehicles. It's the kind of the smaller 4-wheel passenger vehicles. I mean, I know every year in town meeting we have new vehicles on the list, so this seems to be achievable by the other towns. I don't see a huge issue, but we can definitely find different strategies for doing that and understand how long it took and what the cost differentials were. And then I think the 5th one is stretch code, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is a stretch code. So this is definitely a town meeting where not existing construction or renovations, but new residential construction and large commercial would have to meet the stretch energy code. And Robin probably knows more about what that means. My understanding is right now the Massachusetts stretch code is not super onerous, but I mean, it would, as it changes, we would have to try to keep pace. And we really need to sit down with a new building inspector, and he comes from a town that had green communities, and I think he's going to have a lot of insight. But we wanted to have this conversation first before we started running all over town, just talking to people. And so this is the path forward. So really kind of fall, winter, we as the ESC Express vote to try to pursue this, present our ideas to the town council, do some community outreach, unfortunately likely Zoom. And then, starting kind of immediately figure out what we need to get through town meetings or any other town approvals. And then we would have to spend next summer kind of doing that baseline work. And then we would actually apply for the green communities in the fall of 2021. Would take a little time for the approvals to come through, and then we would be on the clock with that look back period that Tom mentioned to be able to move beyond our baselines. And it comes with a off the top $170,000 grant to work on that. So that's the quick review.
So that's it.
Robin, you're on mute.
Thanks. Too many typing and screens on different pages. So you're hoping that we have a motion to show our committee's support for pursuing this, correct?
Yeah, so I think,
Yes.
my proposal is to take a vote that says the environmental sustainability is in favor of pursuing the process to designate the green community, Wakefield as a green community. Does that make sense? Something like that. You could be a little more articulate.
Well, no, Julie, you could actually motion that if you
Okay,
want.
so I make a motion that the Environmental Sustainability Committee vote to pursue the state process to become a green community.
I'll second that.
Can I second? Thank you. Any discussion? Everybody? No, seeing no discussion.
No,
All
it
in-
seems like a no-brainer. It seems like thank you for pulling it together and keeping us moving forward. 'Cause it seems
This is
like
great.
Right. All right. Roll call then. Julie,
Yes.
me, I. Robin,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Tom,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
Myra,
I
and Susie.
Yes.
Great. Thanks, guys. All right. So, next on the agenda, land protection. Mary, do you have any brief update?
Yeah,
Any
just
updates?
I had an initial discussion. Judy Green and I were able to connect, and I was also able to connect with someone at the state, and just to kind of explore. Right now, it's more on sort of the research phase for myself. One, what is the scope of land that the town of Wakefield owns that's green space right now? And there's more than what I expected, just from this initial discussion, but I think part of this is to really understand that, and to also prioritize. There's some land that we should be more concerned about that's larger. I think about our last conversation about the Wakefield forest as an example. It was just surprising to me that wasn't protected. And so, that's a concern. And I think during the time of COVID, in particular, where everyone likes their green space and it's a nice, mental health and wellness kind of thing to do is get out and walk and things like that. It's even more important, not to mention air quality and removal of toxins and all of that. Price of homes, I'll stop. But so we had an initial discussion just about the scope and some of the history about examples of where land was purchased and developed and sort of the casualty of that. Without much discussion, I think, or awareness, even though there are means to create awareness, I think it really wasn't that widely known. And so we also talked through really what are the options to protect land if we were to pursue that, and how would we go about it? And so there's a couple of options that I learned about, some from the state. So Ann Gagnon is the person at the state who's the Northeast Division of Mass Fisheries and Wildlife. And she had two suggestions. One was a transfer at town meeting to the care and control to something like the Conservation Committee or another third party, making it Article 97 land. And then the other option she said is the town can place it, a conservation restriction on it, which I don't think is as restrictive or as protective, if you will, of green space is maybe some of the other alternatives. But again, I'm still trying to understand it. And then the last option is really a land trust, which, you know, Judy seemed to prefer that option. But there's more to come in terms of research on it. You know, how would we actually establish it? Who would establish it? What does it take? Her perspective was that would be a preferred option just because the timing of the process that it would take those other two options tends to be a lengthy one. But I think we really need to kick the tires on that because, you know, this was just an initial discussion. So
yeah.
Again, learning and well, you know, more to come. But yeah, I was a little surprised at how, in a good way, how much land the town does have that is green space. And then really it's about, are there parcels that are really important to us that we want to take these next steps with? So again, more to come, but that was the initial feeler discussion.
Mary, did you receive a map or anything of the town that kind of highlights where these lands are for the rest of us to have graphic?
I didn't. Judy said she would start to kind of pull something together for me. She also said a good site was, I'm just going to try to look at my notes here. Mass Audubon has a priority parcels list where they actually designate certain parcels across the state that they feel should be protected or are at risk in some way. So I was going to take a look at that. I'm not familiar with it. I haven't looked at it yet, but that was one source. And they also have, you know, they tend to focus on watershed protection, but she said that it was a good source. And then she just has sort of I think a running list in her mind as well. That's helpful. I don't know if there are other sources, like I would assume that the town itself has a library of this that we could take a look at. You know, I think we want to be a little bit careful because, you know, anyone could throw their hat in the ring to purchase the land at any point in time, is my understanding. And the town would have to respond to it. So we would need to just walk cautiously with what we're advertised, because it might have the opposite effect of what we want. Instead of protection, you know, people may become interested in something they didn't realize existed. So I would just note that, because I could see that play out, you know, a developer suddenly realizing that there's potential land. So that's it for me, Rob.
All right, thanks for that.
Questions. You're welcome.
So next is, did that come up? Oh, so the bag challenge continues. So
I saw that. That's good.
it was in the paper this week. I think it was this week on Tuesday. It's on our website, and it was on the town Facebook page as well. So, and Joe's guys have been, the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks have been taking it up to Home Depot and weighing it and putting the information in the spreadsheet. So thanks, Joe, for taking that on and helping. Let's go. I think there was another 133 pounds added last week, and they haven't been this week, and it's already full again. So it's right, Joe.
Yeah, so last week was 133 pounds. They'll be going in the morning. Just based on the looks of it, it looks like this load is just as big as the last one, so I'm predicting a pretty high number out of that. So you can see the traffic of people starting to increase using it. So I think you're going to start seeing those numbers really start to ramp up.
And I did see these couple of the school PTOs put it on their PTO Facebook pages as well. So yeah, if any of you can put it anywhere, any social media, that'd be great. Just forward it. You can pick it up from our ESC website page, or I think it's still at the top of the town of Wakefield Facebook page as well. So, and you could just share it. That'd be great.
How much do we have? I mean, I know the post said we made the first 500, but do you have a total? Do we do like a countdown or?
Hang on, I didn't.
The goal is 2,000.
The goal is 2,000. We're currently at 750.
Right. Full of benches everywhere.
Yeah. So yeah, by tomorrow it's going to be in the 800s, nearly 900. So we're getting there. We nearly have the second bench. Safe Streets Group. Is Julie?
Yeah. So this, remember we talked last time about some residents who had some interest in bike lanes, that was really spurred by the discussion of Albion Street. So they are beginning to organize. And I think I reported last time, we had a really good meeting with Joe and Phil Renault, the city engineer, about Albion in particular. And Joe, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think you said, oh, it'd be great to have kind of a group to kind of give input and ideas on things like this. And so through the discussion, they've really come up with the idea that it shouldn't just be a bike route. It's also about pedestrians, and it's about cars being safe, and our town being safe streets for elderly and for kids as well. And so they're going to hold an organizing meeting, not next Tuesday, the Tuesday after, so September 22nd at 7 p.m. It's called the Safe Streets Working Group right now. Really, it's kind of unclear from there how it will develop. I guess in theory, it could be a subgroup of this, though, it might be a grassroots group. I'm not kind of sure. The reason I've been so involved is because I wanted to make sure that everybody on this group could get involved if they wanted to, which requires us to post the meeting. So if we think that a majority of this committee wants to attend that committee meeting, we just need to post it. And if in fact we do end up having 5 people there, we'll just take minutes for it. So in any case, just put that on your calendar, and if you're interested in attending, please do. And don't worry about all the other ones. Don't worry about who's going to be there. It will be posted, and we can all participate if we want to.
Julie, what date was it? Was it July, September?
22nd.
September 22nd.
It should be a Tuesday.
It is, yeah.
I'm on vacation. I've lost track of time.
At what time?
At 7 p.m. It will be a Zoom call. And so we'll be circulating that information out in the next day or two. So don't be surprised to see it. It won't be posted as an ESC meeting. It will be posted as Safe Streets Working Group, with the possibility that, the Environmental Sustainability Committee may have a quorum.
Oh, got you. Okay.
So we're not running the meeting, just to be clear. We're not running the meeting. I have been involved. I probably will be somewhat involved, but yeah, anybody, please open it up. We really need kind of some new, new blood in this. John Chrisley is the resident who approached me. He is super informative and has some really great ideas. And I know he's got some other people as well. So that's what I'm saying.
Okay. So if 5 of us turn up, it becomes a quorum.
It becomes quorum. One of us has to take meetings and we'll record the meeting. If
Okay.
5 of us don't show up, we don't have to record the meeting and take minutes.
And we'll just do an update at our next meeting.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. If you know any biking or walking or running enthusiasts or just people who want safe streets, this will be the kind of the first organizing meeting for that.
Great. Thanks. So I'll go down the updates. Student members, do you guys have it? Eddie, Sophie? Anything you'd like to say?
No.
No, not really.
No? Okay.
I have a question about our student liaisons. I think we're getting close to their 1-year anniversary. Is the appointment or a select need to get re-approved, or is it rollover? I'm just curious. Does anyone know how they got accepted and if there's any limitations?
Just looking at our website right now.
Don't know.
It doesn't
Julie,
say.
Julie, do you remember what the town council voted? Because they're the ones who. No, I guess
don't.
no. Okay.
I remember just the makeup included liaisons, and it just took us a little longer to appoint those liaisons. So let's double check it. We'll let you guys know. And we should just confirm that everybody who's already on wants to continue as well. I don't think there's any problem with that. We just need to get the appointment process straight.
Okay.
Good luck going back to school, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah, when do you guys start back?
I think we start remote the 17th and then we go back the 29th or something like that. I'm not 100%
Yeah.
sure.
Got it, Sophie.
Susie's nodding.
Yeah.
Those are the 2 dates, 17th and 29th.
Susie's living it.
Susie, would you like to go straight in?
Yeah, I don't really have much of an update either, right?
No.
It's all about getting kids back to school and doing it safely, and so yeah, so we're in kind of phase 1 with the professional development with the teachers, and phase 2 will start next Thursday with small groups going back into school. The only school that will be serving lunch, like legitimate lunch, is the Galvin. So the kids at the Galvin will be in school Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and lunch will be served to all of those kids. For everyone else, it's grab and go. So there will be lunches. It's just not kind of the traditional, there isn't any opportunity to do food rescue or anything like that. And I don't think, as I've said before, I don't know that we want to have a food rescue discussion at the Galvin right now. They've got a lot that they're trying to juggle. But you never know, once we get settled in, certainly maybe that could be a discussion, but I think we gotta see how things happen over the next few weeks. So I don't have any other kind of update other than that.
Okay. I just have one question.
Sure.
Do you think it's possible we could do the pumpkin drop again?
Ooh.
As Halloween's coming?
That seems reasonable, and I feel like it's far enough out that like we should be over the hump of assuming that things go smoothly, or if things don't go smoothly, we're going to be in remote only, and that's going to dictate kind of the way that we operate also. I think if we're in remote only, we would not be able to do, well, I don't know if we would be able to do something like that. Maybe you just find a different location and you don't do schools, right? Because you need, obviously, kids to be getting dropped off at school to drop off their pumpkins. Do you want me to reach out to Bob Shiroli? I feel like we should probably wait a little bit longer before we ask him, but I think we could ask at the beginning of October. Like once we get past the 29th of September, I think we could check in with him on that.
Okay. I mean, it's not really a lift for them.
No,
It's
it's not. It isn't at all, right? So I don't see why not.
Okay. I
Rob,
forget if
would Black Earth be willing to go, because it's a morning cohort and an afternoon cohort for elementary schools, and so that would mean sort of 2 drop-off times. So I don't know how that would work for
Well,
Black Earth.
we could let the kids drop them off for 2 days and then go and pick them up or something. I can reach out and ask if they're willing to even participate again this year, and then we can wait and see. Talk to Bob. I just
Yeah, why don't we check with
Right.
Black Earth, kind of knowing what our schedule situation looks like? Like Myra just talked about the fact that we've got two cohorts at different times.
Yeah.
And see what their reaction is, and then at least if they seem interested and willing, and we think there's a way that we could make it work across the morning and the afternoon session, then we could take it to Bob.
Okay. All right. Cool. Thanks. All right. Do you have anything, Julie? Town Council.
No, I really don't have anything. We're meeting on Monday to get back up and running.
Okay. Oh, you have your first meeting back after the holiday, right? A month off. Tom, do you have any updates?
Yeah, it's been a busy month for the utility. Heat waves, electrical peaks, tropical storms, outages, trees, mutual aid. We even had a gas dig in the other week. Update-wise, 2 updates. Our solar rebate program is sundowning on December 31st, 2020. All approvals needs to be done before then. So if anyone is interested in doing solar, I suggest that they get their application in by, the 1st of December, so that you ensure that you get approvals and you're approved. You do have the entire next year to do your installation. So you can do your install up until December 31st, 2021. We have probably about the remaining funds will probably be 6 to 7 residential solar installs. So if of anyone that's on the fence, they should seriously explore that. We are looking into what is coming next, but at this point there is nothing next right now. And then the second update is in the fall, TBD, but we will be having another kind of smart homes roundtable informational discussion, kind of like what we did for the solar program, the heat pump. We had one in the spring. We're going to probably do another one. There'll be more devices coming. We just approved a new device this past meeting that we had, and then there'll be even more, mainstream thermostats coming as well. So just be on the lookout for those things, but that is coming for sometime this fall, and it'll be held virtually.
Oh, great. All right. Joe and Ann.
Sure. So I have a couple of things. I think Ann does too. Piggybacking on the solar topic for a second, that project that we benefited from in the water department went so awesome. We actually have Blue Cell in right now evaluating the other roof and starting to develop feasibility and price proposals on that. Julie had shared with Steve Mayo and myself the opportunity to tap into some DOER funding, but to be able to do that for the solar project, I needed to kind of know what my costs were and the feasibility of it anyway. We ended up applying for retro recommissioning of Town Hall. Some of the controls in that building are old and they're all pressure activated. But the big goal would be to put ourselves in a position that if we can self-fund the project, great. If we can tap into some grant funding, even better. On top of that treatment plant, the 2 biggest bills, the electricity bill to run the pumps and then the bill to chemically treat the water. The goal would be to hopefully offset the electrical bills so we can pass the savings on to the ratepayer. So hopefully I'll have some cool information as time comes on. The other thing is this October, we are 1 year out from the expiration of our curbside recycling contract. So what does that mean? That means Ann and I will have to get busy putting together an RFP and inviting contractors in to try to talk about contracting for Wakefield service. The foundation of that contract is going to be curbside collection. We're going to ask for pricing for weekly. We're going to ask for pricing bi-weekly, and a couple of the basics as far as the logistics and managing the day-to-day. I think we have a unique opportunity, though, to open the door to ask them to propose some other amenities to the town of Wakefield. One of the things that is definitely going to be important is the education piece. So myself personally, and I think a few on our staff, want to see that whoever is contracted with the town of Wakefield becomes our partner. So look at things like Wakefield 101, the Italian Festival, Festival of the Lake. I'd actually like to contractually require them to be there and to educate. But I wanted to pose the question to the group here. Is there anything that we can compile as a list of things that we should ask for proposals on? So the plastic bag recycling that Rob has, I think it's advantageous to us to ask if they can handle that if we create a drop off, and that's something that they would manage. Outside of that, there's a whole bunch of other things, cardboard, hard plastics. I mean, the options are endless. Self-admittedly, I'm not in tune to 100% of the creativity out there. So what I'd like to do is ask the group if we can kind of brainstorm some things to include in that we might think are worth it. Now, I don't know what the financial outlook is going to be in the future, but one of the things that would be nice is to understand some of the services that can be provided to us and then what the potential costs might be. If they can be funded, great. If they can't be funded, maybe a grant opportunity comes. It already makes our application stronger because we have pricing proposals on it and we know the feasibility of, whatnot we can get into as far as services related. That's basically it in a nutshell. I hate to be the one that asks people to do some homework, but I would totally appreciate some brainstorming and some ideas and things that people would like to see. I don't know if anybody wants to talk a little further on that while we're on the subject.
So that sounds great. Yeah, I'm sure we've talked about it a few times of different things that potentially. So I don't mind. We're allowed to, if everybody emails me any suggestions or recommendations they have, and I can compile it, and then I could share it with you, and then we could bring it back to the next meeting or something. Is that what you're?
Yeah, exactly.
Kinda?
So I think, Rob, what I would probably do is I'd paraphrase sort of what I was just saying. I'll throw some of my ideas down on paper, and then, whatever we can add to it, great. We can talk about it. And then as we develop the documents for the request for proposals, we'll include some of that in there and ask anybody that pulls the request to say, here's some ideas of some services that we're interested in. A, can you offer this? And then B, if we're going to offer this, what does it look like? And then what are some of the costs associated with it? So, I mean, we have a great opportunity to kind of kick the door open on a whole bunch of different opportunities, or at least explore them. So why wouldn't we take advantage of it?
When's the due date on this?
So the contract is expired next October 4th, I believe. But we would have to award the contract before town meeting because I would have to know what the cost is to fund it through the warrant article.
The November town meeting or the spring?
The spring town meeting.
The spring town, okay. So
Which means you've got to put it out to RFP relatively soon, right? I mean, not relatively soon, but it's not like you have months and months of time if it needs to be on the spring town meeting for a renewal that happens in October of 2021.
I think tentatively, if we were to get something out to RFP sometime around the end of October, early November, we would probably have the bids due just after Thanksgiving, and then we'd spend the month of December interviewing, negotiating, and then the goal would probably be to award sometime around the first of the year. That can fluctuate a little bit. Before I start going into, usually my group's last at the finance committee, so we could probably push that till March, but I think we might solicit some better pricing if we're a little bit quicker on that. So I would tentatively say the first of the year would be the goal. But you know, things happen and that could move a little bit.
Joe, one thing I think, you know, just off the top of mind that would be interesting to see is if the contractor could provide, maybe you already get this, the data around, you know, how much recycling is captured, potentially even what types, you know, thinking kind of pie chart, you know, this much plastic, this much glass, so on and so forth. And then, you know, correlating that to how much that has offset, you know, cost to refuse, if there is a cost, and I know that all the whole recycling world's been turned on its head, but if, you know, there is cost savings to trash collection and just, you know, kind of having a dashboard showing the community that we could all point to saying, hey, you know, recycling is offsetting, you know, here are the environmental benefits, here are the financial benefits, and that type of stuff. So I think data and communication around that type of stuff to the town is always good, you know, from an education standpoint.
Absolutely. I think the visual piece of it too. I know in-house, the way that we're structured now, I can tell you because we track the tonnage every month. So we just kind of want to know what our volumes are. I could give you a cost estimate related to that. I can think of a few vendors that can probably come up with a much more polished monthly presentation. That's exact example of some of the things we're looking for, right? So people are interested in that data. My personal interest or Ann's interest in it might be a little bit different. So let's ask to display it in a way that's visually appealing, that gets the message across. So that's the exact type of stuff that we'd be looking for.
And Joe, just before everything shut down, there was started discussion with the schools about the recycling.
Yep.
And who does what. Like the town picks up some of the schools. Do they pick up what they're picking up, what they're not picking up? Is that, are the schools going to be in this contract, or are they going to be totally separate?
I would include them in it for now.
Okay.
Unless I'm told something differently by either the school department or I'm told something different by the vendor. Right now they have totes. So similar to, you know, what you might have at your house, they're picked up that way. I don't think there's any reason why that can't continue. The question might be, the junior high and the high school might have a different need, but I know JRM gave the high school about 10 or 12 recycling barrels, and it seems to not be an issue. But I'd probably touch base with them a little bit beforehand, just to make sure they're comfortable with it, but I wouldn't see why it wouldn't be included.
I know Sophie and Ed, you're both on the recycle, high school recycle?
Yes.
Yeah,
So would you be able to put together some input from the high school, that stuff you might need?
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on with it. Like when we go back to school, we haven't really heard much from anyone.
Right. Yeah.
But I'm sure we could put something together when we get back to school.
And you'll still be part of the recycle club?
Yeah.
Probably. Oh.
Yes.
What's not clear is clubs. Like how are clubs going to run? They haven't really figured out extracurricular beyond the beginning of sports. But I think they're trying to figure out could they meet remotely. Like I think that will come. And my hope is that you guys will be able to figure out a way to continue to meet, even if it's not in person. But yeah, they have not gotten to extracurricular clubs yet. Got to tackle music next. That's the next big one, fine arts and music.
Joe, is there a reason not to have recycling expanded to more multifamily?
It could. The only thing that I see that might be a Tom Mullen question, is a town contracted vendor crossing into private property and whether or not we become liable for some damages. I think at a bare minimum, one of the things that we probably end up asking is if there's a way we can leverage our buying power to get better pricing for, you know, commercial or large scale developments that want to take part in recycling. You know, if it turned out that maybe we can't offer it because we can't fund it, maybe because we are who we are and we're doing so much business that we can get competitive pricing for people that may want to take advantage of that. There's a couple of things we'd have to figure out exactly how that might look or how it's worded to propose, but it's certainly something that we want to be able to explore. I just need to check with Tom on the legal end to make sure that I'm not exposing any potential liability.
Of course. Yeah, I know Carol's, I don't think on the call anymore, but she's noted, her community is limited in the recycling. And, if it's a private property issue, is it them committing to take their barrels to the curb where it's public? I don't know, but you do
Right.
hear people, that, not a huge community, but, but too big for the town to pick up, and there's that gap.
Mm-hmm.
What I would assume if we did something like that, where private entity, condo complexes, large industry, attach onto our contract is, because we have that large. I'm assuming that would also help us in pricing because we're just generating even that much more volume.
Totally. And then if I know that, like, as far as the commodities are concerned, I think the last time I was told there's still a little bit of a slim margin in cardboard. So there might be opportunities, for the vendor to get a dividend, which hopefully can be passed on to us. We won't totally know the whole picture until we kind of have a conversation with a lot of people, but the goal would be to leverage whatever power we have to either make it something that's feasible or make it something that we've, try to reduce the impact on a cost basis to the greatest extent possible.
And then the recycling that's offered, like the big bellies and that type of stuff throughout town, is that picked up by our vendor today? Is that picked up by you guys?
So it's picked up by the vendor at minimum 3 times a week. We would go out and pick it up. Like for some reason, if the big belly was alerting us that it was full, we'd run out and get it. We have a trash coordinator that spends the large majority of his day with refuse and recycling anyway. So that person would empty the big belly and actually bring it to the truck just to save him a trip. But at a minimum, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, all of those are serviced.
Yeah, I would just think maybe as part of the committee, sending questions to you, just identifying other areas that, we could expand the barrel collection for recycling. So
100%. Yeah.
Parks and things.
Rob and I have talked about that before. So we're always open to, it's one of those, like, our staff can't be everywhere all the time, but if you can tell us where the hot spots you see at 6 o'clock in the morning where you're out for your walk or whatever, we want to know that.
Do you guys have anything else to add?
That's it for me. I'm short and sweet. I don't know if Ann has anything on her end.
I was just going to say that with Claire leaving, I picked up the relationship with the DP and Sharon Kashida, who's our rep. Been going to the quarterly meeting. She's a great resource for the oops, for some of our handouts and things like that. So we haven't missed a beat with that. We're right on track.
Oh, that's great. Great.
I have a question for you guys. I think last month you said you'd be hearing back from the state soon on some funding. Did we hear from them?
Actually just did. The news wasn't optimistic. There's been a little bit of concern. So I could talk as far as the drainage project on Main Street is concerned. We were denied the project, which, if I'm being candid, was completely kind of a shock. The way that we built that design, we actually invited the state in to look at our preliminary plan and give comment on it to the extent that they could in that meeting without being, a competitive advantage. We picked up some insight that changed our design. Both our staff and KLA don't really understand why that might have been designed. I don't know if it was an scale of economy. We were asking for $2 million. Did they award, smaller projects? Was there something bigger? Was there something we're missing? We actually have the state coming back to us in the beginning of October so we can go through it, kind of review what they liked in the submission, what they didn't like in the submission, and then we plan to reapply aggressively again in the spring. So it was a little bit of a disappointment, but we're hopefully going to be able to dot all the I's and cross all the T's that may be missing and hopefully knock it out of the park second round.
Joe, this is Julia. I don't know if you can hear me. There was another part of the MVP program that was the vulnerability and greenhouse gas planning.
Yep,
We heard on that.
we've heard on both of them. So that one was also denied.
Okay.
So that's another one. Julie, if I get the date of the meeting and you want to come to it with us, yeah, I'm more than welcome.
Okay. Okay.
Most of the same. So actually, you know the process we went through with Complete Streets where we were denied and then we asked why. We re-altered our plan and then we're ultimately successful. We're hoping by having the dialogue with them that, you know, they can kind of shed some light onto some of the things. They may or may not want to be changed. It could just be circumstantial. But we certainly want to keep pursuing both of those options aggressively.
Definitely. Thank you.
Clean Water Committee. So we didn't actually meet last month, so I don't have a huge amount of updates. I did attend the meeting for the head of the lake. Was it? And they're now proposing a smaller buildings. I think it went from 600 to 400 and something units, and they're more staggered. They're set back, but they're still early stages. So that was just what's going on up there. I did have one question, and I wasn't sure where to send it. I did see in the paper that we announced that we had. It said we had algae blooms, but then I never saw any posting. I meant to ask you earlier, Joe. It was in the paper end of the month.
Yeah, algal blooms in Lake Quannapowitt.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was on the front page, but then there was never any posting put up. Normally when it comes up, they put posting around the lake.
So any posting that would have come up, that actually originates in the Board of Health office.
I didn't know we tested.
I don't know if with everything going on, if that was missed, or I'm not 100% sure on the situation. Typically what would happen is they would get that information from us and then we would post it in the kiosks around the lake. I'm not 100% sure right now why that did or didn't happen. I could follow up with you though and find out that answer though.
Yeah, sorry, I meant to ask you earlier. I was just looking at the papers and I remembered it was on the front page of the paper.
No, I'll certainly find out why.
Yeah. But hopefully we'll have a meeting next week and I'll have something to report back at the next meeting. Our next meeting is October 8th, and then matters not anticipated. I just have one that I spotted. There is a electronic recycling event going on October 3rd. I don't know if anybody had seen that. I'm not sure. It popped up on my feed somewhere on Facebook. Social. So that's October 3rd. And then I don't have anything else. Does anybody else have anything they'd like to bring up that I'm not anticipated?
Do you know who Green Day Recycling is that's running the electronics recycling?
I don't. I've taken stuff there before.
Yeah.
It's at that church at the back.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know who they are.
Do we think that it's a fundraiser for the church? Because somebody, like, the fact that we don't know who's coordinating that is kind of interesting to me. And I think that I know at the high school in the past, it's been a fundraiser.
Right. I don't know where the money's, I don't know on that one.
Okay.
I saw something similar.
Once or twice a year.
At that church, Tom?
Yep. Yeah, that they've been doing that for at least 7 years or so that I can remember. And then they hold it like once to twice a year at that same church.
Okay.
So I've also brought stuff there as well. Knowing it's not town, sponsored. I always assumed it was kind of somehow tied to the church.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was just I spotted it on the Wakefield community group, so just as an event coming up.
I
I've seen that same advertisement for other towns, so I think it's some type of management company. That's, I'm not sure if they're local or not.
Yeah, I'm not sure. All right. Anything else that anybody would like to add? I don't see. Robin, was that your hand? No. All right. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favour? Aye. Joe? Hang on, I've got to do roll call. Sorry. Aye. Joe?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
Myra?
Aye.
Robin?
Aye.
Susie?
Aye.
And Julie?
Yes.
Thanks, guys.